Oh boy, the most interesting practice of the Kyle Shanahan era for the 49ers. I am so excited to talk about it today. Just recorded a podcast for The Athletic with Matt Barrows. That went awesome. That's going to be out tomorrow, Thursday morning. So be sure to check that out. Matt has a nice piece about what happened at practice today, and I'm working on a bigger one from my perspective about what Kyle Shanahan is doing. It is essentially mirroring everything that we've talked about since draft night. Remember when I first started doing this YouTube live, guys? It was, I think, right before the draft, right before the 49ers picked Trey Lance, right? And when they did actually pick him, the first thing that we talked about, I still remember I had a much jankier setup. I'm not saying it's professional by any stretch of the imagination now, but I could just sit here and talk football with you guys. But I still remember that setup that I had up at the cabin in the mountains. And we were talking about the 49ers using Trey Lance immediately alongside Jimmy Garoppolo. There's been a lot of hate that's poured in here over the last few months. Oh, that's impossible. It's not going to happen. That's stupid. Trey Lance is a starter for sure. I mean, all this, binary thinking, just not smart football thinking that's poured in. Guess what the 49ers did today at practice to a T? Exactly. They had Jimmy Garoppolo in with the first team, and then in-drive substitution of Trey Lance, and then back the other way around. For certain downs, distances, and defenses, the 49ers had Jimmy Garoppolo in there. For certain downs, distances, and defenses, they had Trey Lance in there. They're literally running the 2 QB mix and match. Now, is this just gamesmanship by Kyle Shanahan ahead of the regular season? At the very least, it is, and at the very least, it's notable in that the Detroit Lions are going to have a headache to think about. The Philadelphia Eagles, the 49ers opponent in week 2, are going to have a massive headache to think about as far as game planning for the 49ers. But I think it's very clear that it's more than just that, because Kyle Shanahan has told us now for, what is it, a month? Probably, I think, not quite a month. But on August 6th, Kyle Shanahan came out and said that Trey Lance will play situationally. The messaging has been consistent from Shanahan throughout. And I'm not just talking about messaging to the media in these press conferences. I'm talking about the 49ers have actually done at practice. And that's before today. And then what they've done in games and what happened today in what I think is the most interesting 49ers practice of the Kyle Shanahan era. Here's a summary. Well, this is what I wrote on Twitter. Will we ever see a more interesting 49ers practice than today? Because today we saw a debut of in-drive QB mix and match. That's exactly what I opened with and what we'll talk a lot about today. That's the Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance mix and match on the field. We saw Nick Bosa's return, which would normally be headlining news, especially the fact that Nick Bosa registered a sack on his very first pass rush and team drills back from an ACL tear. That was a secondary story, though, even though it was a massive one. We saw Jaquiski Tartt return to the practice field for the 49ers off of the active PUP list. And we saw Jaquiski Tartt lay a big hit on Jalen Hurd, who survived the big hit. And that was at the end of one of his 2 nice gains today. Remember, this is make or break week for Jalen Hurd. And we also saw D Ford do some impressive stuff out on the field. He worked against Mike McGlinchey today off right tackle, and he used a power move. And one of those power moves, D Ford just disabled Mike McGlinchey's hands by using the scissors that Nick Bosa picked up at Ohio State from his dad, wherever Nick Bosa got the scissors. I know a lot of that's Larry Johnson, the very legendary, respected defensive line coach for the Buckeyes. He helped Nick Bosa turn into a master of hand usage. Well, D Ford today just disabled Mike McGlinchey's hands on one of those power rushes right up the middle. Just went right back into the QB. So all of that happened in one practice, and it was a practice that in any other year we wouldn't have seen, because normally once we reach the point of the preseason where we are now at, and that is dress rehearsal week, we hit a point where training camp is officially over and media no longer gets to watch the team drill portion of practice. However, due to the irregular schedule this year and an NFL quirky rule that says that reporters should be able to watch full practices through August 26th, which is tomorrow, we were able to witness an actual game week 49ers practice. They are treating this week like the regular season as far as preparation goes for the Raiders. They plan to play the starters for a significant period of time on Sunday. I mean, the gang is going to be back together, and the 49ers are, in fact, using this as the dress rehearsal. So the week is also the dress rehearsal. And normally, since that's not training camp, we don't get to watch this kind of stuff. But today we got to see everything. Tomorrow we get to see everything. And it was absolutely awesome. I mean, that's the list right there of the key stuff that happened today. You also had Elijah Mitchell return to practice. I know a few of you have injury questions. We didn't get too many updates from Shanahan because we talked to him before practice rather than after. So we're going to have to wait for some of these updates until probably Friday when Shanahan speaks next. But guys, there's enough to talk about right now about what happened on that practice field. And it starts with the two guys up on your screen, Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance. Boy, I mean, this is going to be a fun ride this year. I came on YouTube the other day, and my main point over 30 minutes about talking about these two guys was that most people, especially the loud minority on Twitter, is thinking about the situation at quarterback for the 49ers completely wrong. They're thinking about it in binary terms. And that's the state of society these days. Everybody wants either my guy or the highway. Nobody wants to think about things in terms of gray area. They want to think 0 or 1, binary scale, right? They don't want to think in complicated fashion. Unfortunately, that I think is a very negative aspect of the modern world that we live in. But there was a vocal minority applying this kind of thinking to the 49ers quarterback room, making it seem that this was some kind of adversarial situation, even though from the very start, Kyle Shanahan said, guys, this is not a standard competition. Of course, everybody's competing across the roster at every single spot, but I view this as us having two quarterbacks, and I want to use two quarterbacks. On August 6th, Shanahan himself had that quote where he said that he wanted to use both quarterbacks and use Trey Lance situationally. I'm even going to pop one of these quotes open. By the way, Jaquoski Tart was back at practice, so you could take a quick look at him there walking around. But the quote from the other day, man, right here. No, somebody tweeted it at me. That's too bad. I don't have it right available for me this second. And geez, I've tweeted too much to go back and look through it. So we're just going to paraphrase here. Kyle Shanahan on August 6th said that at the receiver position, everybody that makes the 49ers 53-man roster will play. At the running back position, everybody that makes the 53-man roster will play. And he said, why can't it be that way at the quarterback position? I know that you guys aren't used to this because everybody's used to thinking about quarterbacks as QB1, QB2, only QB1 plays, and you're all fixated, on that one thing. But I believe that we have two quarterbacks with two different skill sets, and I'm going to treat this a lot more like the receiver and the running back rooms. Kyle Shanahan essentially told us that he was about to play chess while everybody else is thinking in terms of checkers, especially on Twitter, in terms of the quarterback position. Everybody thought that it had to be Garoppolo or Lance instead of Garoppolo and Lance. And what we're seeing right now is Garoppolo and Lance completely literally. Now, yes, Barrows and I, we've been calling this the whole way. We've been talking about this because we're actually watching and reporting on what's going on at practice. The spreadsheet that, everybody loves to talk about, that is an actual unbiased report of what's going on at practice. And what's been happening throughout training camp is that the 49ers have been running Jimmy Garoppolo exclusively with the first team and then installing specific plays for Trey Lance, normally geared around the run and read options that Kyle Shanahan has expressly explained are being installed for Trey Lance. When the 49ers first did this, what did I say? I said the 49ers are implementing a Trey Lance package, that Trey Lance is going to play, that he's going to be, a complement to what Jimmy Garoppolo can bring you on the field. As camp has evolved, we've seen that Trey Lance has demonstrated that he has the ability to help the 49ers win football games in a unique way, both with his arms and with his legs. And we've seen, Shanahan react to this by saying, we need to get Trey out on that football field. The fact that the 49ers spent essentially 3 first-round draft picks to pick up Trey Lance means that they are pressured to get a quick return on their investment. You don't spend that kind of capital on a guy and just wait for the return on investment, wait for that ROI 3 or 4 years down the road. No, you want to get it right away. But at the same time that the 49ers invested so heavily in Trey Lance, they also bent over backwards to carve out the salary cap space to keep Jimmy Garoppolo around for at least this 2021 season. They clearly wanted both of these guys on the roster, and that's what I've been saying throughout all of training camp. They wanted depth at the quarterback position because Shanahan had something up his sleeve. Well, you see it right now. We've been talking about integrating Lance into the system. Today, they literally rotated the quarterbacks going through. Now, I don't know if they're going to do it exactly the way that they did today. There seemed to be no rhyme or reason to the switching back and forth today. And Kyle has no reason and no incentive to explain or give the rhyme or reason away during these practices. I suspect that during the regular season, he's going to want to use Trey Lance in areas where Trey Lance enjoys the most leverage. Trey Lance was excellent during the red zone, for example, during this past training camp. That's where I thought, clearly outperformed Jimmy Garoppolo. But Jimmy Garoppolo clearly outperformed Trey Lance moving the ball in the middle of the field. So if you take those two things at face value, Garoppolo's probably a better middle of the field quarterback. Trey Lance, he might see more of his action, at least to begin in the red zone. But I think it's going to be much more complicated than that. And what we're going to see is Shanahan utilizing matchups, utilizing personnel packages, utilizing knowledge of what the defense might do from a play calling standpoint on certain downs and distances. And Shanahan will use that to best leverage Trey Lance and best leverage Jimmy Garoppolo, recognizing that he has two quarterbacks who do different things better than the other quarterback. Garoppolo has a quicker release. He's better at the short game. He's probably better at the intermediate game right now than Trey Lance just because of his veteran NFL knowledge and way to see the field. He's probably better at sensing the pass rush, as we saw Trey Lance take a lot of sacks here during practice and during the preseason. But Trey Lance obviously has the bigger arm. He has the ability to make some of those seismic throws to the sideline or downfield, like you saw to Trent Sherfield with insane velocity. And he also has the athleticism that Jimmy Garoppolo will never have. So Trey Lance, I mean, he's a guy that you pick at number 3 in the NFL draft because of the physical skill set, but it's still very much raw. That being said, we saw it shown through in certain areas of the field during training camp, and now Shanahan can enjoy that success wherever he can leverage it to maximize the booms for Trey Lance and minimize the busts. And for Jimmy Garoppolo, you could think of it the same way. You can maximize where Jimmy's great, and you can minimize where he has some shortcomings and some weaknesses. So that's what happened at practice today. And God, I mean, you think about analytics overtaking baseball. You think about analytics overtaking basketball. And you think about the fact that they also have encroached into the territory of football, but they've mainly been used to leverage individual matchups like the ones that Shanahan talked about on the outside with receiver, maybe with running backs. I don't think that they've fully been leveraged to accentuate matchups at quarterback. And it's usually because a team just has room for only one capable quarterback on its roster. The backup is usually terrible or, not good enough to play alongside the starter. But in this unique case, I think the 49ers really have two of these guys that are clearly better than the other in respective and distinctive facets of the game. And because of that, the 49ers can play matchup ball at the quarterback position. Now, does this mean that Trey Lance gets thrown in with the Wolves right away and is running in and out every play? No. I think maybe the ultimate goal might be that at some point in this 2021 season to really have a robust mix and match. We might see Trey Lance be spoon-fed as this season starts. I'm not afraid to say when I don't know. I knew that this was coming, what we saw today, but I didn't know, and I still don't know exactly how the distribution is going to work. But based on the way that the 49ers are talking, based on the way that Kyle Shanahan is smirking every single time he gets asked a basic quarterback question again, Jimmy Garoppolo even grinned when he was asked about it today. The 49ers know what the general plan is going into this season. They've got their basis guy, and they're going to have a lot of fun working in the fresh new Ferrari, and that's Trey Lance. So you got the Lamborghini, the Ferrari, whatever Italian car model you want to name him. You got that sitting in the garage, and it's about to pull out of the garage. It's about to hit the highway. 49ers are about to have a lot of fun with what Trey Lance can do. And Kyle Shanahan's reminding everybody, and I think this camp has reminded everybody, Jimmy Garoppolo is also a good quarterback. When he's healthy, he's been very efficient for the 49ers. He was very efficient through this camp. This is my article for The Athletic that you see right next to me from the other day. Oops, just hit my screen there. I'm going to share the link, but I shared some of the camp stats from the spreadsheet, and you just saw kind of the completion percentages and the move the ball period splits, and then of course the red zone splits. But you see how good of a camp Garoppolo had when you look at the move the ball splits: 54 of 79, 2 picks, but nearly a 70% completion percentage. Lance was down there near 48%, like I said. Garoppolo also had that would have been the lowest interception rate of his career. That last second pick came on the last play against Derwin James and the Chargers at the goal line there. So for a while, Garoppolo was 54 of 78, 1 pick, 70%. You really liked what he did this camp, and then you loved what Trey Lance did in the red zone. Look right here, what Trey Lance did in the red zone: 13 of 18, 8 touchdown passes, 1 pick to Jonas Griffith, and at least 4, maybe 5 red zone rushing touchdowns. So Trey Lance was an absolute stud in the red zone, rough around the edges in the middle of the field, but he gave you those wow popping plays. So you combine it with the stability that the 49ers really feel they've gotten from Garoppolo this training camp with the promise that Trey Lance has, and I think that Shanahan is really bullish about the way that he thinks he can integrate this young quarterback. All right, let's take a look at some of these questions. Everybody's asking about Mostert again. I won't know till Friday probably, because Shanahan spoke before practice, before we knew that something was going to be wrong with Mostert. This is good. Bring in Trey on 3rd and 2 to throw a 70-yard bomb. I was talking about this the other day. I think that the 49ers are going to bring Lance in when, especially in middle of the field situations, into high leverage spots like that. I think 3rd and 2 is an extremely high leverage situation for the offense. You know what's even higher leverage? 2nd and 2, 2nd and 3, because there the defense doesn't know if you're going to run or you're going to pass, because even if you pass and it's incomplete, you still have 3rd down, right? And it's short enough to have a credible run threat at all times. 2nd and 3 seems like a dream situation for Trey Lance, to where he's going to definitely have a safety a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage, and the 49ers are going to be able to get something cooking deep downfield off of play action. That's why Kyle Shanahan went out and got this guy and not Mac Jones, because he went out and got a guy who had pro-style play action experience in North Dakota State, who could actually run. So he could use as a double-edged sword on 2nd and 3 and unleash that cannon. I mean, it all should make sense to you guys now. The whole puzzle is coming together. Everybody doubt it. Kyle Shanahan's lying. He's trying to jack up Jimmy Garoppolo's trade value. No, he's actually trying to run a modern NFL offense. He's actually trying to accentuate the fact that his rookie quarterback is supremely talented enough to play right away, while also acknowledging that, the guy has only thrown the ball, a couple hundred times since high school. We better kind of work him in. Again, today, Trey Lance threw another pick, a little high in practice to Clinton Dix. To me, it was a reminder of why the 49ers are operating the way that they are. Lance is insurance for Garoppolo, and Garoppolo is insurance for Lance. That's a healthy situation. When both of your quarterbacks are insuring each other, you can have a deep room. You don't run into the problems that you did in 2018 and 2020 with C.J. Beathard and Nick Mullins having to play when Garoppolo was out. So both of these quarterbacks of the 49ers need insurance for the other one. Garoppolo, obviously, because of health issues, and Trey Lance because he's a rookie, and we've seen some rookie volatility from him. It really is simple, and I think Kyle's explained it really well. You have to be willfully trying not to listen to understand what Kyle has been saying. That's one thing that really just has irked me, is that Shanahan does something like today, and everybody acts like it's a surprise. Everybody acts like, a very obvious lean toward Jimmy Garoppolo being the starter is some kind of surprise, even though on day 1 of training camp, Shanahan came out and said, guys, this is not a competition. We have both of these guys. We're going to work them both in. Obviously, Trey is the guy for the future. duh, no shit. I mean, this is a situation where we spent these 3 first-round picks on him. Of course, we're going to get him ready, but we also went out of our way to keep Jimmy on this team so we can have both. Kyle Shanahan has been saying this since day one, and if we just listen, if we'd stop being so adversarial, if we'd actually just report on, what's going on, we'd see what Kyle Shanahan was planning to do. So that's where we're at right now. We're at these high leverage potential spots. 3rd and 2, 70-yard bomb for Trey Lance. I wouldn't doubt it this year. I do think that the process will start in the red zone, just because if you read the piece that I put up there, I could even put the link up here for a second. Make sure that you check it out in the comment section. That is where Trey has been at his best throughout camp. So I'm just trying to track it so that I know what Shanahan is thinking. So far, so good. I predicted Trey Lance. I predicted this. So let's see if we can keep it rolling just by accurately reading what Kyle is saying and looking at what is actually happening. What is actually happening in the building in Santa Clara? And I think it's very clear right now that this is what the 49ers are doing. So let's scroll down a little bit further. Wish you wouldn't bother arguing with the Twitter crowd. It's just shouting into the wind. Is it though? Because, I mean, now you have it on record. There are plenty of tweets now from the past month, but I'm saying the 49ers are trying to implement both quarterbacks. There's plenty of people outing themselves, saying that that's stupid, that I don't know what I'm talking about. And now you see what actually happened. So I think I love you guys, and I love the fact that we have an audience here. I love the fact that you subscribe to The Athletic, because I think it brings some rationality back to a discourse that really needs it. We have shouting matches all across social media now, all across our world now, where people are just tribalized. They go into their respective camps and they start yelling at each other from both camps, and nothing could ever agree, right? There is no middle ground. Even though life is lived, football is played in the gray area. And that's what Shanahan is taking advantage of right now. He's sitting back and just letting people shout at each other because he knows it's going to create more confusion for his opponents. But it's my job to properly analyze the team and what they're doing. So I think sports are fun. I think it should be – Twitter is our version of the sports bar. And I would like to bring the truth, smart analysis, and reason into that forum. And I think that's how we have to sift through everything that's going on right now, because it was either people standing on the table beating their chest for Trey Lance, or people standing up on a table saying, oh, Jimmy Garoppolo deserves another chance. And, Garoppolo has been treated unfairly by social media, by the media, because the perception of him is not reflective of how efficient he's been when healthy with the 49ers. That being said, Trey Lance is being treated unfairly in an entirely different way by the media, especially by those people clamoring for him to get 100% of the action with no real justification or reason behind it. Usually the reason for Trey Lance to start has been one throw. I said this the other day. You should be very suspicious of anybody who sees one throw and then says there's no reason for him not to start, or not to play 100% of the snaps. That's intentionally making the sample size smaller just to fulfill a biased point. That's not fair to the rookie, because you see why it's not fair to Trey Lance. The minute that he struggles, as he did for the first 3 series against the Chargers, the very same people who wanted to put him in the Hall of Fame because of one throw are the very same people that want to bench him and call him a bust. That is not intelligent or healthy discussion. That is riding from one extreme to the other. Whereas we should be viewing everything as a fluid situation. And if we want to actually view it the way that Shanahan is, if we want to live in reality and not in fantasy land, we will acknowledge that it is a fluid situation, that there is a lot of gray area, and that the 49ers are trying to play the best of both worlds. So the reason that I do engage, and the reason I got on YouTube, the reason that I tried to write these articles with as much nuance as possible. The reason I made the spreadsheet to actually document the literal facts instead of being sensationalistic about each throw. I've done all that for the reason of today, for the reason of this whole season moving forward, for this whole process moving forward for the 49ers, if we're not tethered in some sense of reality, in some sense of real analysis, big picture analysis that makes sense, we will continue to live and die by each throw in practice. And a lot of people are going to look dumb because of it. And a lot of people are going to be frustrated because of it. There's going to be a lot more yelling matches. So I try to engage because I want to calm the waters a little bit. And hopefully that's happened. And I thought today, sports should be fun. Sports should be engaging. And what Kyle Shanahan is doing, it's, who knows, maybe it blows up in his face. Maybe Lance and Garoppolo won't be able to get in a rhythm together, and maybe it'll cause both quarterbacks to struggle. I don't know, but it's exciting. This is next level kind of thinking. Now, it might be next level down. It might take the 49ers back a step. I don't think it will. I think if you're going to trust anybody with a creative quarterback plan, you probably trust a guy like Kyle Shanahan. And you know what made this all just so poetically perfect is that Drew Brees showed up at the 49ers practice against the Chargers last week, and Jimmy Garoppolo and Drew Brees were sitting there talking after practice. And Jimmy today said that he was asking and picking Drew's brain about what it was like to come off the field every few downs for Taysom Hill so he could get ready for it for this season. So they're openly, they're not hiding this anymore. Anymore. They never did this. Kyle went out and said that Trey's going to play situationally on August 6th, and ever since then, it's been full steam ahead. Today was just kind of that moment of, whoa, I think everybody finally saw it. People have to see it to believe it, and they're both there at the same time. And then Jimmy's talking to Drew Brees about that very thing. Now, this won't be a Taysom Hill situation because Trey Lance can actually throw the football. This is actual pocket passing refinement. They threw him in there with the Wolves, trying to get him to really work on the pocket passing over the first two preseason games. But I think it's very important to Kyle Shanahan to have two quarterbacks who are proficient throwing the ball and proficient from the pocket, because that opens up a whole realm of possibilities. Then he has real play leverage at the line of scrimmage. It's not like, oh, here comes Trey Lance, it's going to be a run. You can't have that. You have to have the credible threat from both quarterbacks. So it's going to be much more complicated, much more nuanced than a Taysom Hill, Drew Brees balance. And I think that's all tremendously exciting for a football fan. All right, let's get some questions. I also want to ask about the offensive scheme and late game high leverage systems or situations, I guess. 2 minutes. Do you think that Shanahan's drop back passing game can be effective enough without the threat of the run? That is a great question. And I think that might be, one of the 49ers' shortcomings, because the offensive line has struggled to pass protect properly. The threat of the run not only gives the 49ers potential yardage on the ground, but it also gets the pass rush to lose some of its steam because they're not sure if they're playing run or pass off the snap. You saw Joey Bosa complimenting the 49ers mic'd up with the Chargers. He said he wasn't sure if the 49ers are going to run or pass, that Shanahan's able to disguise their intentions at the snap. So that takes the steam out of opposing pass rushes. And if the 49ers offensive line is suspect in pass protection, right, they are in turn shielded whenever the defense doesn't know that a pass or a run is coming for sure. So late in the game, when the 49ers are either behind or they're rushing to score, the threat of the run is effectively taken off the table, which means that teams can pin their ears back and get after the 49ers and expose the weaknesses of the offensive line. So that puts the 49ers at a disadvantage. This, with Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo, whoever's behind center, this is a run-first football team. It does, because that's what the offensive line is rooted in. This is a run-first offensive line, so I don't care who the quarterback is. Shanahan's going to run over 50% of the time, and then he's going to try to hit you with play action. That being said, in backyard style situations where the defense is pinning its ears back and going after the quarterback, you might have Trey Lance give the 49ers a bit more of a leg up than in the past, because he can run around a bit up back there. He can provide a running threat even on a pass play. I know Jimmy ran for 10 yards the other day, but Trey probably can run for a whole lot more. So I do think that Shanahan's drop back passing game can be effective enough without the threat of the run in a pinch, but they just can't rely on it. You can't turn it into a habit. And I do think that the addition of Trey Lance and the ability to do multiple different things offensively with a quarterback with a totally different skill set will help the 49ers better keep defenses off balance and keep their offensive line, the 49ers' own offensive line, in the position of power. So the answer to that is I think that Shanahan is well equipped to run a competent offense this year. You're right, Dan. If the 49ers can't run the football, then nothing will work. How much do you expect Jimmy and Trey to play against the Raiders? And do you think Trey will get to play with the starting offensive line and the rest of the starters? Yes. I mean, they were rotating in practice today. I mean, Jimmy would come out, Trey would come in, starting offensive line would stay. The 49ers need to work on this during a game because there will be game clock issues, delay of game penalty issues, procedural problems if they don't actually work on it against the Raiders. So I think you'll see the mix and match against the Raiders just so they get used to the flow of things. So you think it's a case of both planning to be played varying amounts depending on the game and not continuing to get more snaps for Trey until he takes over? Yeah, it's a case of both. Of course, they want to throw a wrench in how opposing defenses plan against them. So you throw out a ton of noise. You let the media blabber, blabber, blabber. You let people tweet about what they want to tweet about, and you leave a little bit of doubt in the Lions' heads about what they're actually going to do. That helps you from a planning perspective. But it's killing two birds with one stone because now you can also get Trey Lance acclimated to game speed by actually playing him. This is a beautiful thing, guys. In theory, it's a beautiful thing. Now, again, we don't know how well it's going to work, but in theory, you have Trey Lance, who has an awesome skill set, who the 49ers want to be their franchise quarterback for the next 15 years. They want him to take him to 12 Super Bowls in those 15 years. And I don't know why they can't go to 15 and 15. You get where I'm going. I'm exaggerating here to make a point. You have this guy who they believe in, who they think can really lead them to the promised land. But at the same time, you could tell that he's still rough around the edges in many key aspects of the game. And that if he's handed the reins completely full-time week one, you feel a little uneasy. You saw those 3 drives against the Chargers. You saw the 48% completion percentage and move the ball during practice. The 49ers are confident that Trey Lance will get that out of his system. They're confident that he'll make a Josh Allen type surge. And Josh Allen went from 50% completion to 70% completion in year 3. You can be confident about all those things, but you also realize that it'll take some time. So how do you harness the best of both worlds? How do you take what Trey Lance already does well now, play him, yet also avoid the downside while getting him better at the stuff that he doesn't do quite as well, getting more consistent? And the Shanahan answer so far has been to pair him with Jimmy Garoppolo. You maximize the booms by leveraging downs and distances for Trey Lance, and you minimize the busts. You minimize those sailed overthrows to Clinton Dix interception today. And then at the same time, nobody's saying Jimmy Garoppolo is the perfect quarterback either. And because Trey Lance's skill set is different than Jimmy's, it's like a puzzle piece fitting together. Trey is going to be able to come in situations where Jimmy is not quite as good. And that, in theory, is how Shanahan wants us to work. So he's going to put strain on opposing defensive coordinators while also giving Trey Lance the game practice that is necessary for him to take that next step. And then hopefully for the 49ers in the future, Trey could do it all. Trey can be an all-pro. And hey, maybe that point comes at some point in this 2021 season. That's another thing. In a fluid situation, maybe Trey just makes a massive surge thanks to playing, or maybe Jimmy gets hurt, or maybe even Trey gets hurt. You don't know what's going to happen. But maybe Trey, there is a permutation of this where he becomes an all-pro level player by week 5. You don't know. This guy could be the second coming of Joe Montana combined with, you know who he could be? He could be the guy that throws like Drew Brees, yet runs like Lamar Jackson. Boom. Press conference, Mac Jones, all brought together in one spot. So maybe Trey Lance is going to be that in week 4 of this year, and he'll be ready to go, and he'll take the 49ers the rest of the way. You can never take him off the field. I don't know. I think that'd be great for the 49ers, but I don't think they're looking at that as likely, which is why they got both of these guys. I think it's very exciting. A true QB system goes against the ingrained paradigm, hence the mass media babble. Shanahan will set a precedent this year. The 49ers have 2 very good QBs. They both play. They both win the Super Bowl. It's a great point. It does go against the general paradigm, but I think it's embarrassing in a way because if anything, those who follow the 49ers should know that the 2 QB kind of back and forth is a huge part of this franchise's history. Joe Montana and Steve Young. Now, I know they didn't kind of just relieve each other in the middle of drives. I get it. But still, the very binary way that people have talked about this, while completely ignoring the fact that in the past, the 49ers have definitely benefited from having two really good quarterbacks on their roster. Just kind of shows the ignorance of this franchise's history. So, but yeah, it's part of this franchise's history, but it looks like Shanahan is trying to do something that applies to the future as well. Yeah, I do think that Trey has a bit of a mechanical issue. He dips a little bit before he throws. Feet are a little happy. He gets there's a little over excitedness, I guess you could say. He's a little overamped on some of these throws. So I think you correct this kind of stuff by working on the fundamentals in practice and then porting them to a game, which is why it's so important that Trey Lance actually plays, because sometimes you could work on everything. The fundamentals are perfect, and you show up and play, and it goes out the window. So you have to play to get better. Montana did back up Steve DeBerg. Young backed up Montana. And guess what Montana did his rookie year? Bill Walsh put Joe Montana in red zone packages his rookie season, 1979. Tells you all you need to know. Just saying. I should talk about the other players in later throws in later YouTube episodes. I have to go pick my girlfriend up at the airport. She's coming in from Nashville, so I have to leave here in a couple minutes. Here's the thing. Somebody was saying, hey, your content's too balanced. You're not taking a side. As you can see, I was taking a side. I was taking the side of reality. If I wasn't balanced in this situation, I would be covering it wrong. Shanahan is trying to utilize both quarterbacks. So you can't stray too far to one side. You can't be a fanboy of Trey Lance. You can't be a hater of Jimmy Garoppolo, or vice versa. You can't be a Jimmy fanboy and a Trey hater, although I think there's less. I don't think anybody really hates Trey unless he's struggling in his 3 drives. Then everybody wants to throw him overboard. But if you go too far to either binary extreme in a situation that is not binary, you're bound to be exposed. So I'm just trying to follow what Shanahan has actually said. That's beyond my pay grade here. I don't know. That's something you got to ask Kyle. I tried to ask Kyle today, and he gave me a little bit of an answer, but I understand he's going to keep some of this stuff close to the vest. I can tell you that Trey has areas of the playbook that Jimmy doesn't even touch. The 49ers specifically installed certain running plays for Trey Lance and not for any other quarterback, because Trey Lance is the only one physically capable of running them. Cool. I think that I've answered all the Trey Lance questions. I'm going to save other stuff for a different video. But this is 38 minutes of the 49ers are doing what we said that they would be doing for months. So I hope that you've been following me. And if you haven't, then it might have been a surprise to you. But guys, follow me on Twitter, wherever you want. Follow me on here. Subscribe, I guess. And we're going to have a lot of fun talking football this year, because what the 49ers are doing with Lance and Garoppolo has been innovative. And again, once again, it's fluid. It's fluid. So let's be ready for stuff to change. Let's be ready for Lance to get a bigger share, for Garoppolo to, everybody's got an opportunity to do good stuff on this football team this year. And I think that's the most exciting part of it, because we're looking at this from the big picture schematic point of view. And I feel that we're wading into uncharted territory, which is so fun to me. So I appreciate all of you. Thanks for joining the show. Make sure to subscribe, and subscribe to The Athletic as well. By the way, here's the Catch podcast coming out tomorrow morning. Make sure you listen to that on your way to work. Everybody take care. Have a good night.